Okay, we're going to get started. So thanks again for joining us for today's, or actually this week's session, working with dates. Inbal Dilmani, our BI consultant here at SciSense, is going to present this webinar. She's part of Hila's team who presented the first webinar on the Elastic Cube, so you're in really good hands. You're more than welcome to ask questions as we go along in the question box in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. We'll also be recording this session and sending that over right after. Inbal, do you want to get started?
Sure. Thank you, Daphne. So hi, everyone. I'm Inbal. As Daphne mentioned, I'm a BI consultant here at SciSense. And we're going to talk about working with dates and SciSense today. On our agenda is date and time functions. You can use both functions on Dashboard and Elastic Cube. We're going to cover both. How to create a date dimension, how to work with dates, and how to create month-to-date, key-to-date, and year-to-date calculations. So in order to do that, I'm going to work with business questions. You have it in the healthcare sample Elastic Cube that you get from the SciSense installation. So the data I'm going to work on today is the same that you will have on your own Elastic Cube sample healthcare. Now the questions I've chosen are related to the healthcare. Number of admissions this year versus past year, admissions per day of the week, admission and cost per month, number of admissions in week granularity, and month-over-month admission, which is the MTD calculation. Now, the Elastic Cube, we're going to work on. I want you guys to see. This is the Elastic Cube that is the sample healthcare. The admissions is the number of patients coming over to the ER. So you can see the admissions here. And we have all kinds of admission time here. So we're talking about time calculation, date and time functions. We have admission time, discharge time, check-in time, and many more dates that we'd like to calculate. I'm going to work on the admissions, and we're going to get started. So the first business question I'd like to go over is number of admissions this year versus past year. Now, in SciSense, you have 4 aggregation levels of time: day, month, quartile, and year. When you get to the dashboard, it looks like this. You have you can see on the right side, we have the years and dates, the filter. If I'll change it, I have years, quarters, months, and days granularity. Now I can switch between each one of them and the date changes. This is one way to use date granularity. Now, the other way to use date granularity is with functions. So here I'm calculating number of admissions and the previous year admission. And in order to answer the first question, number of admissions this year versus past year, I'm going to use the functions here. So I have the functions in the dashboard. This is the first page I see when I edit the value, and if I go to functions, I can see all kinds of functions. So we have statistical functions, we have mathematical functions, and then we have our date function. So the first function, which is very usable, is datediff. It returns the difference between 2 different times, which is a very useful function. Another example of dashboard functions of date is growth. You can calculate the growth in numeric values. And one of my favorite is using the prev function. The prev function lets you calculate previous time, and it doesn't matter which, so you can do previous year, previous quarter, previous month, and previous day. And you can choose how many, so you can do past 2 years, past 3 months, etc. So here, in order to calculate our business question, which is number of admissions this year versus past year, we have the first one calculated on the top, and we want the secondary value to be the previous value. So this is sum of ID, which is sum of admissions, and the previous value is previous years in admission time. And I chose 1 year, so this will show us the previous year. Okay? So now I have the answer for my first question, number of admissions, and previous number of admissions. Now the second business question is admissions per day of the week. Now, days of the week is not, I don't have days of the week currently in the Elastic Cube. I have the date. In order to get the date, I need to use a function in the Elastic Cube. So we're going to go through the Elastic Cube functions. Here I have the admission table. And in order to find the date, I took the admission time and I got the date of the week. Sorry about that. Yeah, now you can see what I see. Okay. So the function is calculating the day of the week with the date name. In the Elastic Cube function, we have all kinds of functions. One of them is the date and time. Within this, we have the day of week that gives us an integer. So it will give us a number between 1 and 7 for the day of the week. And in order to get the day name, the actual Sunday, Monday, Tuesday value, I'm using another function to cover this one called day name. Now this, I've prepared in advance to show you this on the dashboard. So here I have the number of admissions per day. And you see I have the days, but they're not ordered in the right order. Friday is first because Sisense orders the values in alphabetical order. In order to work around it, we have a plugin that you can use in order to change the order. Now the plugin is called the chart label order changer. There are instructions here, but the basic use of it is that it adds a number in the beginning of each value, so that Sunday will go first, Monday will go second, etc. We have the same thing for months as well. And this way, what the plugin does, it adds it to the Elastic Cube and then it removes it in the dashboard level. So what I created on the Elastic Cube in order to use this plugin, I created another field with the same day and week calculation. So I have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday this way. And in the dashboard, the name of the field is day of week, and you'll see I used it in the dashboard. I've used it, and now the dates are ordered in the right order. So this answers my second question, which is admissions per day of the week. Now, any questions so far? If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat box of the GoToWebinar. We'll wait for a second. Okay, so we have one question here from Christian. How do you remove the one in front of this of Sunday? So this is exactly what the plugin does. The code, I'm not sure we want to get into the code. Not most of us do not understand it, but what the code does, it just turns off the, takes out the number from the beginning. It cuts out the first numbers. Now it's a plugin. You can download it and use it inside. I'll go back to the plugin explanation for a second with your permission. So at the end of this plugin article, you have also an example on how to use it, and you have the change labels plugin file that you just download and put in your plugin folder, and Sisense does the rest. Okay? Okay. So my third question is admission and cost per month. Now in this case, I'm asking a question about two different dimensions, admission and cost, and I want to use the same date to ask over them. I want to use a month. Now in order to do that, I cannot do it with Sisense. Do you agree? I cannot do it with the web, with the dashboard level, so I need to go on to the Elastic level to do so. This is why we're going to use a date dimension. Now, there are a lot of reasons to use date dimension. One of them is the reason I mentioned now. If I have a lot of dates in the Elastic Cube and I want to centralize them all into one date, for example, in our Elastic Cube, we have admission time, discharge time, check-in time, attendance time, and others. We want to create all of them into one date dimension. The other reasons to do so are to create calculations. Let's say that I'm not calculating the regular date. I'm using a physical date. So each company calculates physical date differently. We can use the date dimension in order to do calculations and other granularity of the data. To create flags, for example, if it's a work day, if it's a holiday, so we can use the date dimension for that. Another reason to do it is to show in weeks granularity. Weeks granularity is special because it doesn't fit into any hierarchy. So we have years, we have quarters, we have months. Weeks should come over here, but then we have days and weeks does not always fit. We'll talk about that later. And we have the year-to-date, quarter-to-date, month-to-date calculations, which is one of the best reasons to use date dimension. Now we're going to talk about week granularity. So weeks don't always fit into a year or a month. A week can start in 1 year and end in the second year. It can start in 1 month and end in the next month. And the solution is to decide to which year the week relates to by the week start date. What I'm actually doing in the Elastic Cube is I'm choosing the week start date. Let me show you the query. So this is the date dimension query. Don't be intimidated by it. We have a copy-paste version for you guys. But what it does, it calculates the week start date. So if I'll go here, I'll see that in order to calculate the week start date, I'm calculating if it's Sunday, then if it's Monday, then 1. If it's Tuesday, then I'm taking 1 day off to calculate the week start date, 2 days off, and so on. And that means that Monday, the date that the week starts with, is the one I'm going to calculate the week with. So the end result will be that I have weeks calculated per year. So if you see here under week, I have 2013, week number 9. 2012, week number 13. They're not ordered right now by the week, but you can see the values that the date dimension creates. Also, if you remember, we discussed using all the dates together. So this section actually unions all the dates together. So I have the admission time union with the discharge time. So I have one date that represents all of these dates together, and this is why I have the date dimension. Now, what I'm using it for is to show the weeks as a date granularity. Now, as I said, we chose the week to fit to a year. So now the filter will work if I choose a different year, because it will be within a year. Any questions so far? We'll have a few moments for questions. We're getting some questions now. Okay, so one of the questions is to create the date dimension, do you just union the contributing dates field? So the answer is yes. The first thing we do in the date dimension is we union all the dates together. So as we said, we're going to union all the dates within the elastic into one, but I'm going to choose one date to be the leading date to connect into it. So in admissions table, for example, the leading date is admissions. You can all agree, I guess. So I'm going to connect it to date dimension. And in ER table, we have the ER date. So that is the leading date for this table. And in the date dimension, I did union all of the dates together. Now they are one table called dim dimension and dim dates, and on top of that I'm doing all of the calculations. So now I have one date, one leading date in dim dimension called dates, and the rest of the calculations are on top of that. So yes, the answer is yes. Looking if we have any other questions. So one of the questions is, I have 5 unions there, but only 2 tables, and that is correct. I want to union the dates together. It doesn't matter which table they come from, so that is why I have 2 dates from here and 3 dates from here. So yes, I have 5 dates unioned and only 2 tables. Okay. I'm gonna go to my next question. And in order to order the weeks in the dashboard, and you're correct with that question. So far I've used the plugin to order Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I can use it also to order the weeks, order months, etc. I haven't used the plugin here, but you can definitely use it in order to order the weeks accordingly. Now to our next business question, month-over-month admission. So this is, let's say that I want to know, today is the 20th of April. I want to know how much I've sold until now, or how many admissions I've had until now. And I want to compare it to previous months. But previous months have 30, 31 days, not 20 like I do today. So month-over-month admission comes to solve this issue. I want to compare the period of 20 days I've had now, this month in April, to the previous month. So I want to compare it to March 1st until 20th, February 1st until 20th, etc. In order to do that, I want to use the MTD admissions. Now, I can do it both on MTD, Q2D, Y2D. The logic is important here. So I'm going to show you an MTD example, but the idea is you can compare month over month, quarter over quarter, and year over year. So as you can see, here I have the 1st of April until the 20th, and the previous month, according to the MTD flag, is from March 1st until March 20th. Now I'm going to show you how I did it. So in the date dimension, I have, show you this here first. I have, I'm not sure you can see, let me zoom in a little. You see I have is Q2D, is Y2D, and is MTD flags. This flag gave me a 1 or a 0 according to the period of time. So if it fits the Y2D, MTD, and Q2D definition, it will get a 1, if not a 0. Now let's get to the definition. So you see, I'm calculating here a lot of month index, quarter index, but the definition is that if this quarter fits the quarter, will match the same quarter last year, so I get a 1 unless it's, if not, then a 0. If this year period, so from the beginning of the year until April 20th, it's the same period of time. That means it'll be from 1st of January 2015 until April 20th, 2015, then it will get a 1, unless, if not, then a 0. And for month to date, we already said, if it's between previous month, March 1st until March 20th, or the month before that, February 1st until February 20th, we will get a 1, and if not, then a 0. Now let me show you that on the dashboard, and then we will be able to get some questions. So over here, I have the MTD admissions. Now if I'll go into this, we will see that the flag here for each MTD. This is how I'm filtering this value. So if I would have checked everything, I would have gotten different numbers. It's not that I have less, now the bar just changed, so you'll see that the number have just changed. Okay? So it was until 500, and now it's until 300, so it does it automatically. So it means that now I only have the values that match the previous one. So this August 2011 matches from the 1st until the 20th. This April matches from the 1st until the 20th, etc. Now, I have two values here, cost of admission and number of admission. And I'm showing them here. I'm showing two values within the same elastic cube, and I'm filtering on 1 month because this month comes from the date dimension. Okay? Any questions? So we have one question. How do we calculate the this month day field? So this month day means that this is the same period of time in previous months. It's not only the last month, not only March, if I'm in April, it's also previous months. And this is to compare the same period of time. If we'll get out of this example of admissions for a second, and we'll think about sales. If I'm selling this month until the 20th, a certain amount, and I want to compare it to the previous sale amount, I want to see how much I've sold so far. So this means that if I've sold this amount in March until the 20th, I want to see how am I standing in front of it this month. If I've sold more, if I'm selling less, what should I do in order to reach my goal? We haven't got any other questions. I'm going to wait a second. Okay, we're receiving a lot of questions on how to calculate these fields in the Elastic View. I don't want you to be intimidated. I told you before we have a forum post with a copy-paste calculation for that, so I'm going to show you that now. This is a forum post that explains what is month-to-date, Q-to-date, and year-to-date. And it's explaining the business case, the solution, and how to implement it. So this is the query. It's a copy-paste one, I promise, so you can calculate it in front of now, today. Everything you do is compared to today. And here are calculations just to make sure we're on the same quarter and the same month. And for you guys, it's only a copy-paste one. I promise this is working. So the first is Q2D, Y2D, M2D is the one you should look at in order to understand this certain calculation. I'm going to send you all of the forum posts and all of the explanations we have here today. Okay. Now we have a little bit more time, so I want to go deep into the functions now. The dashboard formulas are explained here. So we have a lot of formulas in the dashboard. I've showed you that before. And we have also an example for that here. This is a full document explaining it. And you can see also the quick function. So I want to go through that for a second. So you see you have quick functions, which are contribution, past value, change over time, running sum, and running average. These are the functions that were selected as quick functions. They are the ones that the users use the most. So you can do that by right-clicking on the value on the menu button here, quick functions, and then choosing the function you wish to use. The other functions are in the function tab I've showed you. And you have them listed here. So you remember we talked about the priv function. That's the one I've demonstrated. You have a lot of other functions here and their explanation. Now these explanations are available on the dashboard itself. If we go, for example, to the value function, by hovering on each function, I have the explanation. So if we'll go to the date dimension, the date and time functions, we will see the date differences. Now, another way to use functions is in the Elastic Cube, and we have a list of those functions as well. So if you go to Sisense documentation, date and time functions, and I'll send all of the participants today this list also, you see all the add years, quarter, months, how to create day, all the date functions and time functions you could use in Sisense. You also have a nice tutorial to watch. And the way we do that is by we have those functions both in the custom tables, which Jim Day mentioned is a custom SQL table. So you can use these functions as a custom SQL table. And also in a regular table, if I'll add a new field, like these fields which are marked with the marked ones, you can see that you have also the date and time functions and the rest of the functions as well. We're talking on date and time functions today. So you have these functions here as well. They are the same functions. You can use them both as a field or as a part of a custom table. Any other questions? We're going to wait a couple of minutes to get some questions. Okay, guys, so I've reached the end of my presentation. I'm encouraging you guys, if you'd like to ask any questions regarding the topic we talked today or about date functions, to ask them now. We will wait a couple of seconds. Okay, it looks like there are no more questions. I hope everything is clear. I'm going to send all of you participants the presentation and the form posts and plugins I've shared with you today. So we'll have all these explanations. Thank you for participating. It was short, but I hope it was fruitful. And we will see you next week at the next webinar, Sales Engine Marketing by Dotan. Thank you. Goodbye.